Hey, let's explore the DOM and React's virtual DOM. The actual name for the DOM is the Document Object Model. The Document Object Model is an API that allows us to manipulate HTML documents. It takes an HTML-like structure and represents that same structure in a tree-like structure that is a hierarchy of objects. Each node in the tree is an individual object. The power of the Document Object Model is that it represents all the parts of the documents within those individual objects. Those objects then have children, which are other objects in the tree. And each of those objects has a unique identity with their own inner methods. The Document Object Model allows us to insert, update, or remove these objects, and therefore update the underlying document. Now, this document is at the heart of web development, as the browsers provide the Document Object Model to make the web page accessible to JavaScript. In JavaScript, we can directly work with the Document Object Model using the document keyword, which is made accessible anywhere in the script. In terms of web apps, the document is crucial because it's how we can make the web page dynamic by using the Document Object Model to add, update, and remove elements from the web page itself. All right, let's explore this document object more closely. Back in the command line, make sure you're in the React bootcamp/starter directory. Once you're there, fire npm run start to start the parcel server, which will build a project at localhost 1234. So give that a visit at localhost 1234, and you should see this React element with JSX text right away. Cool. But the part we're concerned about is exploring the document object. So in the console, go ahead and enter document. And what you're going to find is that this document object is a collapsible version and expandable version of the underlying web page. It's the HTML. In the body portion, you're going to find that there's the div with the ID of root with the React element JSX. Cool. Now, the one function we're very familiar with is the document.getElementById function. And we can get the one with the ID of root, and this returns the div with the ID of root, which has our inserted element. Cool. When we run React DOM.render, we're targeting to insert some elements or components at this document.getElementById of root. So let's check out how this code for the insertion actually works. First up, we create an element using document.createElement as a function, and then we pass in the name of the element that we want to create, which in this case, it'll be a div. The element itself is now going to be a pair of div tags. Cool. Then we can set the inner text of this element. So how about document object node is going to be the text of this element. And then we can append that as a child to the root div. So we'll say document.getElementById of root. This will give us that div with the ID of root that we have above. And this has its own append child function. And we can append the element as a child to this. And you'll find that the result of that is that we get an update within the actual web page, and our document object node gets inserted there. Cool. Later on, if we decide to remove this div, we can use the remove child function. So press up, and that we access the previous command, and then instead of append, use remove child. And now it disappears from the web page. Nice. Now, these methods that we just used are only a tiny percentage of the huge number of methods that the document provides to interact with the web page. If you type in document and then dot, you're going to find that there's all these other methods that you can use to interact with the underlying web application. But the thing is, beyond document.getElementById of root, we won't be calling these methods directly in our React code. Instead, React will take care of calling these document methods in an optimized way. React approaches this through a system called the virtual DOM. Essentially, there's the regular DOM that the browser provides. And then there's a virtual copy of this DOM maintained internally in the React engine called the virtual DOM. So for every DOM object, React creates a corresponding virtual DOM object. But the thing is that the virtual DOM objects are much more lightweight. DOM manipulation with the regular DOM object is actually pretty slow when it comes to JavaScript operations. And it's only natural, as these objects are really deep and complicated in order to represent the massive number of ways that someone could interact with the web page. So say we wanted to update a bunch of elements on the page. Perhaps we want to reorganize one of the list items. This is achievable using only methods from the pure document object. But when it comes to a huge list like this, and a lot of shuffling around of elements, using the heavyweight DOM objects can be pretty slow. Doing the same task with the much lighter weight virtual DOM objects would be much quicker. React's virtual DOM is quicker because it doesn't use those heavyweight document objects from the native document API. Instead, it only uses its own lighter weight objects. And while the virtual DOM is updating, the actual DOM can be left unchanged. But once the virtual DOM is done, React then takes a snapshot of the virtual DOM. It then compares the updated virtual DOM to the state of the actual DOM. It finds the differences and then calculates the minimal number of actual DOM methods to call in order to update the web page in the most efficient and optimal way possible. And the result is that the DOM is then updated to match the virtual DOM held within React's engine. So this is one of the greatest innovations of React. By calculating how the DOM should be updated in a completely internal virtual representation within the engine itself, actual updates and calls to the DOM are minimalized. That's why React applications are fast and very performant. Okay, with this new understanding of how React works internally to interact with the DOM, we've covered what I think is necessary for foundational topics for React and web development. Alright, to briefly review, we discussed how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are core pillars of web development. Then we went over how web apps are served documents to the browser that the browser then displays and parses. We covered how React projects are bundled and transpiled into a single script that the browser can support. And now we've covered how React works internally by optimizing calls to the core document object through the virtual DOM in order to create highly performant web applications. With these concepts covered, we can now start exploring the React framework itself a little more deeply, with topics like lifecycle methods and more. We'll also build an entirely new complete React application, a project that once it's done, can be included in your portfolio or added to your resume. Alright, see you there. If you enjoy this content, head to davidtkatz.com. There, you'll find links to full courses, as well as to reach out and connect with me. For React and Redux in particular, you'll want to check out udemy.com/React Redux Bootcamp. This is a course I made to help you learn React and Redux the right way, and to turn you into React and Redux developer. Okay, see you in the next one.